Welcome, welcome. I don't think I have my own light on, but you should still be able to see me pretty well. Alright. So we have ambitious, determined, cowardly, stubborn, grade, standard. I wonder if it might be better. So captain person when we captain trait. And then trait. Determined, cowardly, ambitious, stubborn, green, none. Stubborn's the one I'm missing. I know I was missing one of these. Stubborn. Alright, then they can call this captain trait. Display name. trim these materials down a bit, but I think that looks pretty decent. Ah, there we go. Now I can see 5,000. Ship's pretty big, so it can be a little hard to see the actual lights. howdy. I'm working on my own game. It's a space combat game with a big focus on the story and the plot. It's my first commercial game. I've made a few games for college when I was taking game design as a course. But yeah. I can show it off here real quick. Sorry if you can hear my cat. He's wanting some attention. But yeah, it's a still a work in progress, but right now I'm working on some stuff for the trailer. Just some stuff to get everything out there. Need to work on a few more things, but making some progress. Today's mostly just about getting the mobile shipyard from the first mission into the game, and then getting a few things done story-wise and setting up a few more AI personality traits. Make sure my music's not too loud. There we go. But yeah, that's what I'm working on today. Oh, you know what? I did remove the red lights from here. That was my bad. Whoops. View frame selected. Yeah, there we go. Depends on what it is, but I'm more than willing to answer some questions, see if I can help. What's your major problem? I made a display name for this one. Trait. Might still be under the string version. Yeah, that's crew readiness, morale, tooltip. Okay, yeah. So, sure. Yeah, I can take a look if you got it somewhere in the Discord. If you want, you can post it in the troubleshooting channel. It's like the 4th channel down or whatever. You can post it there and I can take a look. Alright, let's see. Crew you on. So morale. Let's see, got team priorities. Yeah. So yeah, we got morale. We need the condition here as well. So that's going to be the crew UI. We need to look at the ship screens. Ship details. There we go. And instead of crew mouse, we crew readiness. I guess crew condition. Nice. Oh, fun. So the wheels just kind of rotate. So it looks like the wheels are rotating around in the incorrect point. So there's something called a pivot point with meshes. For something like a wheel, your pivot point needs to be dead center of the rim. So let me kind of show you with my ship. If I go to here and then player pawn. So inside of Unreal Engine, there is a few different so there's a few different ways to rotate things. So if you're looking at your mesh itself, so you're saying you've done that, you've actually moved the pivot point, so the pivot point is in the dead center of the rim. Let me look at that video again, make sure I'm not rewind that. Oh, wrong video. There we go. So let me see here. So that I see, okay, I kind of see what you're saying. So I see it's aligned. What are they parented to? Because they definitely seem to be rotating around something. It doesn't look like they're parented to anything in the blueprint other than just the vehicle mesh. Are they connected to like a bone? I think it's skeletal mesh. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I haven't done much with skeletal meshes, but yeah, I would definitely think it's something with skeletal mesh. Without having gone through the tutorial and seeing exactly what they've done, I would look at the bones and see where the bones are, because if it's parented to a bone, it could be that what's doing is it's rotating around that bone, but not in the way you're expecting. But I'm trying to think. Yeah, like I said, I haven't done much with skeletal meshes themselves. What might be useful is as long as we replace the default car model. Yeah, tutorials can lead you astray depending on, because like that's what they're doing in the tutorial, but the question is, are they using the same engine version? Like there's a lot of things. Oh, it says it's 5.6, so as long as you're using the most recent, that should be fine. So let's see, they're just using the default template. I'm going through the tutorial real fast, just skimming through it. Yeah, they're using assets. Let's see. And they're dragging that into place. Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably something with the skeletal mesh. It looks like they use a specific static mesh. No, that's just the main body. And then let's see, default pawn class. Yeah, it's just creating pawn class. Colliders. I mean, it could be something with the colliders. If the colliders aren't quite, now that would make sense because they're not really colliding. They're more rotating around something. Yeah, I'm not sure. That is kind of weird. Yeah, let me put myself in streamer mode. So yeah, without knowing for sure, it's hard to say. So I was looking at the video. I mean, everything looks pretty straightforward. He adds the wheels. I'm not done a wheeled vehicle. Because a lot of what I've been working on has been like more physics assets. Yeah. Let's see. Trying to see if I see anything very obviously off, but let's see. SM switch car. Yeah. Well, that is odd. Hold on. Is that just a trick of the recording? Okay, yes, just a trick of the recording. Okay. I paused at the exact right time. I didn't realize I was moving the marker. Let's see. Yeah, so it's as you're moving it. Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be something with the skeletal mesh, because like if you see, like it rotates perfectly around the same point. It's not like they're like moving randomly or like moving around. It's around an exact point. I just don't know what could be wrong with it, off the top of my head at least. I mean, I don't do much with wheeled vehicles or with skeletal meshes in general. I've done a little bit of dismemberment and stuff with some player pawns and things like that, but nothing crazy. So unfortunately, I don't think I can be much help. I would say usually if I get stuck or confused on something, I'll usually watch a few different tutorials and see if I find any consistent throughput or something that, maybe was missed in the original tutorial recording. It could be that they did something in the recording but forgot to include it in the video itself, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure either. Not without digging into the files themselves. It could be any number of things, but I haven't done much with skeletal meshes, unfortunately. Let's see. Do a drop down here, set this to fill. And do I have a... Could do a slider. It would be like a 5-position slider. These are all ones I made. Let's see. Need to create a common slider that is shared at some point. Now I can more easily make these all look the same. Copy. Paste. Alright, crew condition. Oh yeah, slider. Is it the bar color? This default. Is it just that? Nope. Why does that look different? I guess I just copy paste it. Control C. Welcome, welcome everybody. All right. Slider's neat, but I don't think that necessarily makes sense. So I might just go back to a drop down. So the question is, should I use one of these? Because it is using a common. And then we'll just have the options, right? Oh, actually, no, that's right. That's a button, not a. Let's use this and then give it some options. Condition 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, hey, welcome, Gustavo. So I am working on a space combat game. I think of it sort of like KSP but with guns. Maybe not quite as complicated as KSP. You can't necessarily build anything, but you've got a lot of physics-based combat. So the whole goal with the game is to be very story-focused. That's the actual final goal, is to have a campaign that is complete upon release. But essentially space combat, railguns that fly, when they fire, they fly at realistic speeds and things like that. Your ship will continue to move if you accelerate and then let it sit there. Just sort of taking inspiration from a lot of physics-based combat games, but tried to simplify them just a little bit to make it a little bit more fun and enjoyable. But there's still a lot of complexity in it. So, for example, you got crew morale, the crew condition readiness, things like that. I've very leaned heavily on hard sci-fi in terms of I've been writing a lot of different features in as let me pull up the where's my board? Kanban board. But yeah, a lot of my focus has been sort of on studying the realism of real navies and what the real navies do. So, for example, here over, I've got Story of the Shiano, and I've got an Air Force Officer's Guide. I usually read those, and then I've also got somewhere over here, I've got a Navy Officer's Manual for a submarine Navy captain. But essentially my goal was I've done a lot of studying and reading and learning the realities of what naval combat and air combat look like, and tried to kind of mesh them together in a way that feels cohesive and is set in this sort of futuristic world. It's the end goal is to have a story that feels very cohesive. Yeah, here's another. I have a deck watch standing document that's just this is how the Navy handles deck watches, because it helped me when I was writing some of the dialogue. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, I try to keep things relatively organized. I definitely would not say I'm the most organized person in the world, but I've definitely tried to keep things organized. And exporting a static mesh from UE5 to Blender, I want to say you can. I believe to export a static mesh, let me pull up my station mesh. I want to say, I swear there's a way to export meshes. I swear I've done it before. Now, it was a mesh that was one I created, I believe, in Unreal Engine, but I believe there is a way to export it. But I'm not sure on top of my head. But yeah, thank you. Everything I try to keep organized just because it helps me. It definitely isn't the most organized, mostly because this project's a little bit old. I started creating this project when I first got out of college, just as a way to release something commercial, but it also was a bit of a learning project because I learned a lot in college, but I also realized that there was a lot of gaps in my knowledge. So I use this project as sort of a learning tool. Thank you. Yeah, I do a lot of research. A big thing for me is, especially when writing, I try to get in the mindset of my characters and think like my characters. And so a lot of my writing is just sort of fed off of that. One thing I do is there's a hard sci-fi subreddit called Tough Sci-Fi, or sorry, not subreddit, Discord. There's a subreddit for it too, I believe, but the Discord specifically, I do a lot of asking questions there, writing there a little bit. I just really enjoy getting into the nitty gritty of all the details, and there's a lot of things you learn that really inspire me to write a lot of what I do. Speaking of which, yeah, we got these conditions. So we have conditions 1 through 5. And then let's go ahead and the default condition for now, we'll just leave it as condition 5 since that's the lowest tier. And tooltip. Let's see. So pressed sound. And then make that hovered sound since it's that. Let's see. All right, let me see here. Yeah, there's our different conditions. All right. We'll learn more about implementing those in a little bit. All right. Oh, yes, that's what I wanted to fix. I guess not fix, but extend upon. So we have our ship screen here. All right, so we have the 2. What we need to do is have this toggle whenever it is hit. So I believe we're also doing the same here. Radar find reference. Yeah. Are we actually just listening for the change? Could be we're just listening for the change. We're actually manually. Okay, I think we're actually toggling it. So when we call the actual toggle here, yeah. Okay, so when we call the toggle, we're basically clearing and refreshing the entire screen. Makes sense. So then we'll also probably want to do the same here. So what we might do is instead of calling this toggle ASR, because that's originally the only thing that needed to do this, we'll just call this refresh. Oops, got the caps lock on. Refresh screen. Or refresh icons, I think is more accurate. So when we toggle our radiators, we need to also refresh radar toggle, rad toggle, refresh screens. Or icon. I call the screens again. now that should work as expected. But it only works the one way. But that, oh, you know what? Yeah, because the radiators won't stop extending until they've extended. There's kind of a requirement because of the way that those work. Yeah. So. Ooh, that's a good idea, though. It might be something where I can implement a... well, it is paused anyway, so it may not be worth implementing a loading screen there. Not loading screen, but active widget. Let's see. So we got our search and rescue vehicles, ASR mode, radar view, systems. All right. Different conditions or fuel power ratios. I wonder how these have hovers. Let's see here. Can I just pull in here? We'll rename this to... I need to rename it in here. Crew condition. All right, and on selection change, yeah. Box is opening. I wonder. Configuration. Is there not any hover options? There is hover, but that doesn't. I guess we could do. I wonder. This is using the normal UI system, not common UI. Depends on when you ask me. Scope creep is real. I would say a lot of the base mechanics are near the 75% mark. So I've got like the ability for crew to die, parts to get damaged. Because so for example, each subsystem on the ship is a struct that I have on the ship, as well as like the damage levels. Like there's a lot of data that I've already got stored. The big thing, I think the big missing piece is mostly the actual AI, and then a handful of simple gameplay objectives. Which that part, the gameplay objectives, that's very easy. Most of that I've got planned out. I just haven't actually implemented yet. The ship's AI is going to be a little bit harder because I'm going to need to have pathfinding and things. And I've got basic level pathfinding where the ships can try and avoid things instead of colliding with them. And I can have them chase the player. But there's still a lot of work that needs to go into there. I want to have them have captain's personalities and things like that. But I'm trying to prevent myself from overscoping any further than I probably already have. But a lot of features are in. So for example, right, if I think I have my key bindings set up. Let me double check, see if I got my self-damaging key bindings set up. I may not. I may have turned them off for testing something else. But I can essentially, receive damage in different compartments. Oh yeah, see, so my rear engine's destroyed. So if I go here and try to accelerate forward, it doesn't work. So if I hit shift, which is supposed to go forward, doesn't work. I hit rear, I can go rear, but not forward. So if I go into my ship systems and send my engineering team to the rear engine, they're going to start working on repairing that. It is paused right now, so it won't show that. It is something I've gone back and forth as whether or not I want that screen to be paused or not. That is a hard thing to decide. It won't show the progress there because it's paused, but they are currently working on fixing that. And then once they do, I'll be able to accelerate forward. Which, speaking of which, just to show that off, I might disable the pausing temporarily. Go to player. The good thing is I have a lot of these systems built very flexibly, so I can go here to one place and just turn off that pausing. So instead of set game paused, wrong one. Instead of set game paused to true, I just bypass it there. And then I can start back up and test it out right here. So let's see. I don't remember what button was that triggered it, but we'll mash the same buttons till we get that to happen. I've changed my key bindings a few times to help with testing. Yeah, there we go. So if we go here, now it shouldn't pause. It should be playing. So if I go and send them to the rear engine, that actually might be a bug. It might be broken. So they're supposed to go to the rear engine and start working on repairs. And that's supposed to be ticking away at the actual repairs. Let's see. Is it actually... Let me open up my player pawn here. Let's see. It might be that it is actually still repairing, but it's just not displaying that it is. Let's see. So we go to our... Where's our... ship diagram? Edit ship diagram. Let's move this over here and then ship diagram selected. I wonder if these aren't actually updating. These are supposed to be updating and triggering. Let's see. Oh, you know what? It might still actually be paused. Let's see if we go ahead and, because I set it to not pause, but it might be that I have it paused somewhere. All right, let's take a look. Let's do a little debugging here live on camera. Brigade videos related to pathfinding. They're very complicated. I would say the biggest thing you can do is learn about pathfinding and how AI, specifically in Unreal Engine, can handle pathfinding, because a lot of it depends on what kind of AI you have, what they're doing. For example, right, if you're using the I think it's called the EQS system, it's a pathfinding system that basically determines where an AI should or can go inside of Unreal Engine, and it's got a lot of built-in tools to make it a lot easier. But if you're doing something more complex, like driving or flying in space, it gets a lot harder. And so it's something it's one of the most complicated parts of game development. So I definitely would recommend looking just into general, like, how do these systems work? There's something called A-star pathfinding. How do those systems work versus something like the EQS system built into Unreal Engine? Like with most things in game development, it's an iceberg. You only see part of it on the surface. As you get into it, you're going to learn a lot more about the in-depth part of it. So let's see here. So we got my component widgets. Let's go. We got our engineers. We're setting repair added, repair UI. Time to work, starts timer. Timer active. Let's go ahead and see. This should trigger. And this progress bar should be being updated. So the curious thing is, why is it not? Let's see. I wonder, did I change some things here? All right. Let's add a breakpoint and let's see. Okay, so it's trigger. Okay, I see that spinning in the background, so it shouldn't be paused. So why is this not ever updating? Let's see. So we're not hitting this stop point, this break point. So why not? This is the ship diagram, right? Yeah, so ship diagram gets created. Clear engineering teams, damage control, add child, yeah. So all looks good. Yeah, no problem, man. Have a great day. Let's see. Let's see if the start timer's ever getting called. All right. Okay, so we are starting timer. Max time, current time. Oh, it might just be set to 0. Okay, yeah, because of the debugger. So max time, current time. Why is current time set to the same time? Kind of odd. So set timer by event, 10.1, take time. Oh, that's right, because we set them to the same and then we go through the loop. Okay, so we get to the loop, so the repair gets added. Starts the timer again. Attempt application. Call component changed. Yep, that all looks good. And then refresh UI. Okay. And then what? Just a loop over? Okay. So let's at least get to here and starts it. Although it seems to start it twice, which that may be the problem. Maybe this is for some reason calling it twice. So let's go here and add a breakpoint here. All right. Okay, so it's 4. That is the hotkey. Send them to rear engine bay. Yeah. So that never gets triggered. What if we send these guys to rear engine? Yeah, we don't never does anything. That's strange. Okay. Let's see. So I believe I have it set up so that even if you destroy it, then it can be repaired. Maybe not. You know, I'm thinking about that. That's component damage. Let's see. Let's just do 1 bit of damage instead of hitting it 4 times. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Boop. Let's see. Yeah, now it's just damaged. But yeah. It's like it's not actually triggering the repair cycle. Okay. So let's see. Those are all bound. Vet repair added. What do we do? Repair timer. Here we go. Yeah, time to fix. Direction. You know, I wonder. I wonder if it is actually binding, but it's not updating. So let's see. Because this is not. It's being set up, but it's not actually being called. I mean, it's being called. Sorry, it's being called, but here. But so why? Change by correct time divided by max time. So if it's 1 divided by 1, it'll be 1. 1 divided by 0 will be 0. 70%, yeah. So this should all be working. Let's just test something out here, just to see if it's actually running but not updating the visual aspect. We can just trigger this every time. We should see the current time tick down if it is the case. All right. Send them to the rear engine. Yeah, okay, so that's not being triggered. Good question would be, so first let's make sure we're not getting paused somehow. There's not like something weird going on where we have like an old pause somewhere. So let's go ahead and somewhere in here, yeah, event tick. On event tick, we'll just do a very simple print string here at the beginning, just to make sure it's not being paused. Now it'll just tell us for sure. Because if it's being paused, then that, you know, defeats the purpose, right? No point in doing any extra work to fix something if it's not broken just because it's paused. So let's make sure. And it is pausing. Okay, it's pausing when we get to this screen. Aha. So that's a problem. For some reason, the ship details UI here, this is pausing. So, oh, you know what? I bet I manually paused it somewhere instead of using the new player tag. That is the radar. Create system UI. Ah, this is it, because I unpaused it and repaused it. Which I think the reason why I unpaused it and repaused it was to make sure that this all loads. But instead, what I can do is Actually, I wonder if I just remove that, will this work? Since it won't pause it now, let's see. At the very least, it'll tell us if the UI should work, and if there's some other bug because of that pause and unpause that I was doing, I can always fix that in a different way, like removing gameplay tag or adding gameplay tag or something. But All right, let's go ahead and do this. It shouldn't pause now. And if we send it to the rear engine, and now it's repairing. Okay. That's what I expected to see. Now I shouldn't have had the rocket icon. I don't know why that showed up, but that's what I was expecting. So yeah, it was just pausing when it shouldn't have been. Because I've gone back and forth if that screen should pause or not. I mean, there are times when I want UI to pause, so it might be something where I'm gonna set the default to pause here. I'm gonna set that back to actively pause, but I may not have it do so for that ship system. Let's see. If I set that back on, that should pause for the dialogue, but it shouldn't pause for that screen because I don't think I explicitly put the tag of gameplay. I might actually, because it might be from the previous screen. But let's see. Yeah, so that pauses, that all freezes. Boom, we get the objective. Go here. This should freeze. Go here. Okay. So, as much as I would like to, I don't think I want these screens to pause because I'm thinking we're going to need control. So we only want to pause when it's dialogue. So I wonder, can we maybe tweak this slightly? Maybe have a check for dialogue being true. You don't want to pause on a few screens. So I guess maybe have a different tag for that. Because I don't want to necessarily pause for the ship screens. Adds a little bit of challenge for the player. Well, I wonder, is there a way to... Yeah, that's right. I looked into this a while back. No, I haven't done it in C++. I think it's something that you can do, and there are ways to do it, but I think that with all the tools that Unreal Engine gives you, I don't think you're going to save that much by doing it in C++ for a state tree. Or it depends on, well, I guess it depends on how you're doing your behavior tree, right? So certain types of behavior trees and state trees and things are more performant than others. So it's just going to depend on, you know, how you're going about it. I would say best thing you can do is learn how to make just a general behavior tree so that you understand how the AI behavior works and what Unreal Engine's asking of you. And then once you have that working, you could always create one duplicating that exact same tree and then test out the performance difference. That's usually what I do. If I'm unsure of a system would be beneficial to put in C++, usually I'll create something that's as identical as I can make it reasonably. Of course, using any optimizations that C++ would provide me. And then I try to run them side by side and see if there's a performance difference. Of course, you may have to scale it up to really notice a difference. So for example, you know, having it on one single AI, it may make such a minuscule difference. But if you test it on, say, like 100 wandering AI, you start to notice more of a difference, so on and so forth. But that's what I would recommend, at least, is learn the basics, understand the concepts. Once you've got that, then try and tackle it in C++. And then you can always compare the two and see if there's a big difference. I don't know off the top of my head if there's that big of a difference, but of course, with everything not in C++, there's always a little bit of overhead. So let's see. Yeah. Do I want... So I'm trying to think. So I'm like, I want to specify. So I may have to create a new gameplay tag here. Because I want to specify when I want the screen. Because like there are times when I want the player UI to trigger things and do certain things. So I definitely want to keep that around. But I may make a specific tag for locking. or pausing the game. So actually maybe just outright what I call it. Where's my gameplay tags? This is where they're supposed to be. Oh, manage. Yeah. It's always weird. Like, I feel like it should just be a drop down with all these under there. I don't know why it's got to be a separate window, but I'm thinking we'll have player UI. We'll just have another option in here and call it player UI pause. And we'll add that. And then what we can do is if we have that player UI pause, then we will go ahead and lock it. And now we know that for our dialogue, we want that. So let me go to my dialogue. It's going to be under, I think, my UI, right? Or is it under my... Yeah, I think it's under UI. And then, nope. It's going to be under my quest, won't it? I've been rearranging my different systems around. So we add the tag in here. So we just go find results, tag to add. Here we go. So if we're starting the convo, open conversation, then we want to do pause, player UI pause. So now they should pause for that initial dialogue, but it shouldn't pause for the ship menus. Yeah, it can be quite complicated, McAfee, but if you ever have any questions, of course, you can always leave a comment either on any of my videos or in the Discord, but it's definitely one of those things that the biggest skill Unreal Engine developers should ever learn is learning. I know it sounds simplistic, but like there's so many different ways to learn. So I think the biggest thing that helps people is learning what their actual, it's actually needs both maybe. But learning, how you specifically learn is a very useful skill to have. Let me see here. So I'm adding the player UI pause. That's what I added here, right? Player UI pause, yeah. So why did it not? Let's see, do I add any other tags? Maybe that I have another tag somewhere else that, that's removed. So I'll do pause here as well because we're closing combo. That should trigger that. Let me double check that this is, active tags. Oh, you know what? I don't have a listener for that tag. That's what it is. Yep. I forgot. So the way the gameplay tag system works, I need to add a listener here for this. This is the part that's, this part's not a little clean. I'd avert your eyes if you don't want to have them burn. Hey, no problem, Ghosty. Glad to see you here. All right. Let's see here. We have event dispatcher for paused UI. In case I ever want to pause it for other reasons, but we'll have a paused UI one. And this will just use the signature. All right. And then in here, we'll have the pin for player UI pause, and then have one here to execute it. Execute, avert your eyes. This will probably burn them. Unfortunately, there's not really necessarily a more cleaner way to do this. I mean, in theory, I could actually, a slightly more clean way would be to pull this. And let me just do add tag listener here, right? Yeah. So at here, at this determined tag change, this will be a slightly cleaner because then I don't have to go inside of that thing to update it. I can just update it right here. It's slightly cleaner, but not by much. And I might not do that for now because to not have to remove everything back over to that, but I'll keep that in mind. That might be one of the things I refactor later, but unfortunately Unreal Engine doesn't have a great way to bind events dynamically. You can't just say bind every single event I have to a gameplay tag. You have to link them together. The nice thing is it means you don't ever listen to gameplay tags you don't want to listen to, or you can even unbind gameplay tags and ignore them. But it does mean that it is quite hideous to look inside of this section. So eventually I'll probably group them together and make it a little bit more hopefully aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, it's kind of gnarly. Yeah, gameplay tag managers, they are very, very useful, especially because you can reuse them across the board, use them for AI, use them for players. They're super flexible. It's really, really nice, but having so many, it can really get gnarly in here pretty fast. All right, so that's add tag listener, notify tag change. We need to call that same thing. So call pause UI, pass in the context, and then let's see. I think that should be good for now. So let's see if that works. That should work now, because we should have the listener. Oh, actually, is the player listening for that? Set up listeners. Radar player. Yeah, here we go. We're not listening. This needs to be for player UI pause. Yeah, there we go. Because that's when we want to show. Now, if we'll probably also want to listen to the player UI non-pause version. So if we're just wanting to display UI directly, so we'll have this version here, and we'll just create a matching event, and we'll call this show UI not paused. So for this case, this will be for like a screen where we want the background for things to still happen, but not for it to pause directly. And we'll basically do the exact same thing as we're doing here. In fact, let me collapse. I'll probably collapse this all down. I'll keep that at the front. And then collapse to function. Call this like toggle UI or toggle pause. And one thing we can do is we can actually get rid of this. So we can actually just pull the gameplay context and break, and then just get active tag and say, I guess, view wise, they're doing the same thing, just slightly different ways. I think it'd be fine to leave it this way for now. It's cleaner this way. Yeah, gas is a super handy tool. I won't say I understand it fully myself. I mostly use the gameplay tags from gas. I actually don't use the ability system, mostly because a lot of my AI and stuff are things that can't necessarily change abilities. Like a destroyer doesn't suddenly grow missile tubes or torpedo tubes, right? So like while it'd be super handy for like if you want the player to be able to change weapons, it's not something I'm having in my game. That's something that definitely can be super helpful, especially with multiplayer, where you've got like probably a lot of different attributes, a lot of different things going on. With multiplayer, I believe, as far as I understand, gas has like multiplayer support built into it relatively easily. So definitely it's super handy. All right, so we want to show the UI, but not pause. So we basically can just make a copy of this. Let me close a lot of these extra functions. I was looking through some functions earlier and I forgot to close a lot of these. All right. So let's go ahead and basically duplicate this, and then we can just remove. So we'll just call this toggle UI. And what this one will do is it'll just say, hey, do we need to turn on the UI? Yes. Just not in a paused way. All right. And then whenever this gets toggled, then we just basically call the same thing. We call toggle UI. And then we have the same search, but instead of for UI pause, we're going to be for just UI. Although I do think this might need to be the exact match, right? Oh yeah, we got set to exact match. So if I've got this set up right, what this should do is it should pause if I open up the UI for my dialogue. So when it first starts up, but not pause if I open up my ship systems. Let's see. Yep. So I got my cursor. I can skip through my dialogue. My mission starts. I'll damage my ship here. I don't remember what button. I think it's like 4. And then we'll go ahead and open up my ship systems. Still not paused, which is what I wanted. Go to ship systems. Perfect. Still not paused. If I send these guys to their engine, and boom, they start repairing. Bam. After 5 months later. Yeah. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've not fully restarted this project in so far as like creating a whole separate project and starting over from scratch, but I've definitely rebuilt a lot of systems from scratch, because you'll get some experience and you'll go, oh, I think I can do this in a better way, and then suddenly you're redoing the entire thing, and yeah, that's definitely a fun one. I need to. So this rocket engine, actually, why is that showing? I think it's because I reused this in a few places. Ah, it's in the progress circle. Okay, so it's because this instance. So if I just go ahead, I believe I'm using this in that other one. So I need to just create a new instance here. So let me go and do a new instance of this progress bar. Actually, let me go. There you go here. Yeah. Rather distract you, help me fight your quest. A little bit of both, McAfee. It's a little distracting, but it's in a good way. Sometimes a little distraction can actually be helpful, because it keeps you from getting so focused in that you forget the little things. But at the same time, it also helps me fight my procrastination, because like I can't tell you how many times I'll be about to work on my game, and then I'm like, oh, but this new game is out, or there's the Battlefield 6 beta is out right now, and I'm like, oh, I should go play that, but I'm like, no, I need to work on my game. I need to get this done. So absolutely. Repricing so many differences. Yeah. especially when like you have any kind of big feature, you have your aha feature moment, and you go, oh, this would be really cool to throw in there. And then you go, oh wait, but the system I built wasn't really designed with that in mind. So then you're like, oh well, of course the system's bad. I got to redo it because I could do it better now. And then you end up redoing it from scratch. I've done that many a time. Let me see. Actually, do I use... I want to make sure I don't break anything. Do I use that UI on the ship main page? Be under my HUD. Railgun. I know for railguns, I think I use that same one, right? Or is this... It's okay, sweet. The railgun one is a separate one, I believe. So let's just try it out. Let's just disable show image. Let's see. Will that break it for the other stuff? I think it might for the missile screen. If that's the case, I can always just duplicate it. It's an instance, so not a huge deal. But if I can avoid dev work, I will. Yeah, it breaks it for the MLS. Okay, so we'll turn this back on, and what we'll do is we'll just make a duplicate of this. Duplicate, we'll just call this progress bar. Call this the engineer. Oh, caps lock is on, of course. Let's call them eng progress bar inst. Save all, and for this one, we'll turn this one off. So show image, and if we come back to, is our component widget? Yeah. So this we should be able to set to the eng progress bar. And I think that should be fine because it shouldn't need a direct reference because it's going to pull from the material instance. So let's see here. So if I've done this right, what we should see is it should now show my missiles on the left. Yep, which it does. And then if I go ahead and damage myself and then open up my ship screen. All right, there we go. I got my damaged engine. Send them out. Well, okay. Oh, I bet I'm using that progress bar for, so I use a dynamic material instance. I'm betting I'm still using that here. Where's my component image and texture? Am I actually setting that manually here, or is that, okay, yeah, those are just the actual names. Progress circle. Warning. Tooltips. Yeah, that's all fine. Progress circle. Component image. No. I feel like I'm setting it in here somewhere. Yeah, for real. Starting a project over. Actually, you know what's funny? When I first started working in Unreal Engine back in, oh god, was it Unreal Engine 3? That was not the convention, but also I don't know that material instances were a thing back then. I'm trying to remember, when did the material instance come around? UE, is it UE3, the material instances? My freaking material instance. I'm trying to remember when they first released material instances. When did Unreal material instance? Yeah, it was first introduced in UE3. So before UE3, like, well, in UE3, which is what I started learning on in college. Oh, I know you're just teasing, Ghosty. But in UE3, that wasn't a thing. So it was like, and even when they first came out, it was still like an unknown. Like, how do you use these fully? Like, they're really cool, and everybody started learning them. But man, so always forget. Yeah. There's someone had shared, I'll have to find it, see if I can find it. Somebody shared like a naming convention that's like the Unreal's recommended naming convention. It's super handy if you're in a group project trying to remember all that stuff. But man, on my solo projects, I'm like, I'll never remember that to save my life. I'm just moving too fast. I'm like, I'm not gonna stop to spend some time on it. Let's see. Let's find all the references. Yeah, we're getting it here. Aha! Here we go. Set brush from material. This is what I was looking for. This is the one where I need the eng. I knew I was setting it somewhere because I knew I used a dynamic material engine progress bar. There we go. Which I probably should just make this a variable, but it's something I'm not gonna almost ever change. So, all right, let's see here. That should fix this. Let's see here. All right. There we go. Do the damage to my ship. Ship systems. Send them off to the repair. Yeah, there we go. So they'll repair it and then boom. And I believe if I send both of them to the rear engine, right, it looks a little different. Yeah, I need to fix that. Technically, it's supposed to show them layered with like a slight offset. But I think because of the way the updates actually work, I don't think it's fully working. Well, I think it actually is working, but not quite. You can't see the outline well enough. So it's not as clear that there's two people there. Yeah, because I think it is actually working. It's just not very clear. Yep. You can see the double outline there. I probably should also have an icon or something showing like there's more than one engineer here. Let's see. So if I go here, because technically you can send more than one engineering team to a section and have them repair at the same time. In fact, I think I can show that off. Because if it's not broken, I should be able to do a little bit extra damage to my ship without fully destroying it. Oh, gotta get through. Alright, so if I can do this a few times. And then what I can do, okay, I did end up destroying it. Rear engine. And then if I send these guys, yeah. So they work together, so they'll repair it even faster than by themselves. Especially because this engineering team is a rank 3 engineering team. But yeah, I need to slightly tweak the fact that they overlap so heavily. Question is, how am I... It's been a little bit since I've looked at this code. So if I've got my engineering teams, right? Go to the designer. Yeah, here we go. So engineering team 2. All right, here's this one. So I need to scoot this over probably. Maybe make it even more of a slightly different color. And then let's see if we can whip up an icon. Let me open up let me shift away real quick. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and let's come up with an icon for our crew. So if you've got more than one crew, we probably could just use a plus symbol. Do I have this already exported in my exports? Yes, I do. I've got the add. So let's see if it's actually in the game. Tempted even just to replace this with the add. Yeah, let's see. What does that look like? We'll shrink it down a little bit. 128 by 128. Oh, that's right. Let me up this. It's because it is set to there. It's in the overlay. Let me see if I can move this slightly. And then scale this down a little bit. Put like 0.1, 0.1, maybe a little bigger than that. 0.3, 0.3. Yeah. That might make it a little bit more clear that there's more than one. And what I might do is actually duplicate this and then set this back to where I had it previously and set it back to the engineering team. All right, what is icon iOS person, icon iOS, there we go. Set the scale back to, I think it's like 0.7, so it's set to 0.7. Set that back to 0. There we go. Let's see. Translation's at 1 actually, and then 0.75. That's what it is. Okay. And then we'll move it over slightly more. There we go. And then what we can do is take this and maybe change the color slightly to give it a little bit more, something going on. So it's like, hey, there's more than one person here. They're doing some work together. And then we need to make sure that this engineering team shows up when the other one does. So let's go find references. It's like it can't find references. That's oh, you know what? I wonder. Let's see. I wonder if I'm referencing it elsewhere when I'm updating. So I think I do the updates elsewhere for that specific component. Which I need to pull that back into that component, but let's see. Yeah, so I do need to tweak that. Go back here, and it was engineering 1. What we can do is we can do find references by name all. Yeah. It's going to go through all the blueprints, which is going to take a while, but I'll make sure I find all the references. All right. So here we need to do the same as engineering team 1. So we'll also do git engineering team 3, which is probably not the best practice. This probably should all be wrapped up in the UI itself, but this is much older code that is unfortunately in need of a good rework, but I'm trying to not do that so that way I can make sure I can release my trailer and demo in a reasonable amount of time. And then I think, yeah, these all go up here. And this one goes to, to there. All right, now if I do that, now we should see the 2 heads as well as the plus icon. All right. Forward engine and forward engine. Well, it's kind of working. I don't know why it's scaled up, but it's kind of working. Why is it so gigantic? Let's see here. This only goes to there. Let's see. So 3 is set to 108. It's set to 64. I wonder if that could be the problem. 64. Then 0.75, 0.75. Yeah. And technically this is set to center, which actually I do want that to be center. But I bet that's why it was offset. I bet because it wasn't centered because I was messing with the plus symbol there. It probably was trying to expand a fill when it shouldn't have been. So this should fix that. Forward and yeah. So now I just need to fix the plus icon, and then that should be good. Yeah, because plus icon seems to be tweaking, been depending on what compartment they're in, because it's the image itself is probably stretching, but that's easily fixable. We can just go and go here and then make sure that do we want to center here? That should be good, because that should mean it's centered on itself. Yeah, it's not too bad, but it definitely could be more easy. What I would love to see is a way to like simulate or render it within the actual editor when you're in that screen. I know it's not necessarily the easiest ask in the world, especially because like there's so many things that a lot of them rely upon, but I would love to see some way to, yeah, I need to tweak that then. But some way to just like, while in here to see like simulate and like see what it would look like if it was on like some kind of screen. Technically, I think like there are ways to do so, but there should be, at least in my mind, an easier way to do it. So why is it stretching out? I think because it's trying to fill. Let's just wrap this with a size box. Anyways, width and height override. I'll make this in the top right hand side. I'll actually do a minimum and maximum. No, because we want this to remain. We want this to scale to a 1 aspect ratio. If you set the min max, actually, would that cause problems? Oh, okay. I see. I think I see what's going on here. So if we set this to 32 by 32, and then set this back to 0, 0. It's back to like 0.5, 0.5, and then set this to right and top. Or so I need to. It's all set to right and top. Because it's centered up. Yeah, because that's for that. All right, I see. So it's the gap around it. It has some kind of padding going on. Can I? No. What if we set this to 1 by 1? Yeah, because I bet the scale is what's causing the weird padding. It's like 32 by 32. And then we can shrink this down. 16 by 16. Yeah. Maybe want to shrink that a little bit further just so that it can be seen behind the progress bar. There, that should work. All right, let me see. I got some messaging. All right, let's see here. And then if we put this in here, well, now the plus symbol's gone entirely. Oh, it's here. It's just way up here in this corner. Okay. That's unusual. Yeah. Let's go up here. Oh, I wonder if the image is stretching out. That's okay. So good news is that's something I can just scale this up and give it some padding. We'll say like 32, or well, maybe 32 so string, but 18. And then scale this up to like 16 by 16. Let's see. I think that should work. All right. There we go. Yeah. It's weird that it's... I wonder... Oh, you know what? Okay, so let me go look at... I bet it's something we can resolve with these components. So I'm thinking what's happening is... So these fill that space to try and fill up the whole compartment. So... what we probably need to do is have a min and max desired width and height, and set to like something like 64 by 64. And then ideally we'd want this to be centered, and then we'll just translate it over a little bit. Normally, I don't like these manual translations, but I think to some extent we're not going to be able to avoid them just because of the fact that the box has to handle a lot of... It's meant to be dynamic, and so this specific piece isn't meant to be. It's meant to be pretty static. So let's see here. Okay, that's much closer, although it's a little high up. Yeah, but it matches for both. So down and to the left a little bit. So we'll say maybe like, instead of 30, we'll say like 15 by negative 15. Fortunately, this is one of the things that some way to simulate the UI would be super handy. I noticed the widget reflector. They're like, oh, you can use that instead, but that isn't as helpful in my mind as some way to actually genuinely simulate it. You know, give it some parameters, like, you know, this is going to be in like a vertical box or something, and let it simulate what that actually looks like. It won't be perfect, but at least could give us an idea. All right, here we go. Do forward compartment. Yeah, that's what I wanted. And then forward engine. Yep, exactly what I wanted. Sweet. Yeah, it'll stick off a little here, but this also is just not the end of the world. That's something I can always tweak a little bit here or there. So, because I can always scale this down, bring it a little closer, but it at least works for now. Tells you there's two in the same place. So if I go and damage my ship again, send them here to the rear engine, and then send them to the rear engine, boom. Yeah, eventually I probably want some way for you to like hover and see the different teams that are here and what rank they are and stuff, but I'm not super worried about that. And let's make sure they can go back to their engineering base. Yep. That is something that I'm excited for. So there's something called the engineering base. You don't see your engineering team on the screen because they actually are lore-wise compartmentalized structures that keep them safer. They're hardened structures so that when your ship is taking damage, if they are out repairing parts, they're more likely to get hurt or killed. Versus if they're in the engineering base, they're safe. I probably maybe could rename it. Maybe engineering base isn't like necessarily like as clear cut, but essentially it's like a hardened bunker for them to hide away in. So, all right. I think that's probably it for today. I planned on doing a longer stream yesterday, but I ended up getting caught up doing some fun stuff with my brother. We are working on some Minecraft stuff that probably will go to a second channel that's more for just fun gaming, so I won't really promote it here or anything. But it's something that me and him are doing on the side. We're prepping for and doing a lot of cool things. So, but yeah. I think that's it for today. But I will see you guys either next stream or next video, depending on what comes first. It'll probably be a video. I think I have something queued up for Monday. But I'll see you guys there. Good luck and good hunting.